week, but he's getting hauled in. So,
now what about
Mr. Schiller probably has some stories to tell because he's probably spent more time than anybody else with Donald Trump, except for the woman that I think is going to wind up being the key witness somehow.
Hopix.
Okay, and I'll tell you what, nobody is probably thinking of her. The story flew by because there's so much happening. But Rhoda Graf.
Ooh, I don't know who that is.
Rhoda Graf. She has been Trump's right-hand woman, his confidential secretary for decades. And, they announced that she was a target of the investigation a couple of months ago. And, let me just transition here. Let's stop talking about the links and this. Let's talk about the special counsel investigation for a minute. Last week, before the indictments were unsealed, everybody basically said, okay, they said, okay, Mueller is handling this like it's an organized crime investigation. Okay? Now, organized crime investigations are unique. They really are, in the sense that they take groups of individuals who are linked in fact, but not on paper, companies, individuals who are conducting a business with a pattern and practice of racketeering activity, okay, as part of an ongoing criminal enterprise. It's called RICO, the RICO Act, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It was passed in 1970 to fight the mob. To give you an idea of how likely it is that we will see a RICO indictment, Donald Trump settled a $25 million civil RICO lawsuit last year.
Trump University.
Okay? Trump University. They sued him for civil RICO. He fought. He asked for summary judgment before they went to trial. And what the judge wrote buried him. I mean, literally, I was ready to write a snap book about all this for the trial, studied the RICO, read all the findings. It is for real. Like, this is not Trump's first racket. It's not even his second. Trump Soho, which has been an utter disaster from practically day one.
Felix Sater.
Lower Manhattan. That is also the subject of a RICO investigation or a RICO civil lawsuit. And I would believe a criminal RICO at this point, an investigation. One of the insiders filed suit for RICO back in 2010, and it only took them 6 years. Remember, it's private citizens, 2 lawyers against the whole world practically. And those 2 lawyers managed to, they've already been to the Supreme Court on this case before they even got past the motion to dismiss. But in last December, lawyers defeated Trump, not Trump, but Bayrock's motion to dismiss the case. Bayrock was Trump's partner. It was controlled by Felix Sater. And I wrote a story based on some exclusive emails that's in the Stern Facts as well, that basically says that the entire Trump family participated in a racket revolving around Trump Soho. It was a bank fraud racket. What happened is they discovered through the New York Times in 2007, in late 2007, that their partner, Felix Sater, was a twice convicted felon, once openly convicted, once secretly convicted. Okay? Now, the second one they could not have known about or didn't have to have known about. The first one, anybody could have figured it out. I mean, a simple background check would have turned up the felony. Okay? So anyway, once they found out, they demanded a meeting. And I obtained, through a secret source, an email showing that the lawyers involved in the deal said that all the Trump family was participating in the meeting. Right? Now, let me circle back to RICO itself. RICO has a very low bar, the lowest bar there is to be caught up in a RICO investigation: participation. As an example, in the Trump University lawsuit, the judge wrote that participation, a good example is you had a mafioso who was a courier. All he did was carry sealed messages from one mob boss to the next. He participated in the racket. So participating in a meeting where you acknowledge that your partner is a felon, you have $350 million worth of bank loans, and it's a material fact that a felon can't participate as owner, manager, or borrower, yet you've concealed it this whole time, which, by the way, led to a $350 million foreclosure. They committed other acts of fraud, which the Manhattan district attorney should have prosecuted, but they pulled some very unorthodox legal maneuvers and contributions to his reelection, and for some reason, go figure, he didn't. But anyways, the judge ruled that anybody who knew, who participated in the Trump Soho, who understood or knew the material knowledge that Sater was a felon, and that it would be hidden for the sake of keeping the project going, which he wrote. Felix Sater wrote a 7-point plan to his Icelandic funders. The ones that he said were closer to Putin, by the way. This all got released over the summer. There's another article on the Stern Facts called "How a Russian Mobster Built Trump Soho into Putin's Money Laundering Machine." I go for subtlety in my titles. And the judge said anybody who knew and actively concealed that would be participating in the racket. That was a civil ruling, but it applies to Trump in the sense that if a criminal investigator wanted to explore the 10-year statute of limitations, certainly they would probably file something before January 20th of next year, when that statute of limitations would expire.
Wow. Hey, you
see how this is like, it's not first RICO or second RICO. It's like, this guy is a mobster. So in this case, I'm trying to explain how, like what you saw with Paul Manafort's indictment this week, right? What you saw was them. They're like, you know what? We don't need to do anything other than hit a single here. We don't need to prove that Manafort and Gates colluded with Russia on day one. Okay? We just need to get on base. And no doubt about it, they got on base. And the way they did it, and this is something that I wrote, and I wrote it on the Stern Facts. I mean, I guess I should have bolded it. But everything you see in that indictment, practically, is what you call documentary crimes.
Right.
In other words,
show the paperwork.
The box.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're lying. It's a felony. Okay? Disclose all your actions through FARA. If you omit something material, it's a felony. You catch me? So
It's like if you're driving without your registration. Okay, produce the registration. Otherwise, there's no excuse. There's nothing else you can show. Let me ask you a question real quick, though, Grant, because
they never charged.
Grant,
they never charged the judge for failing to register.
We only have 2 minutes left, though. Grant,
they'll charge you for both. Go ahead.
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes left. Can you give me like another 15 minutes or so after the break?
Sure.
Okay, great. I really appreciate that. Now, Felix Sater, there's a quote attributed to him where he says, "I'm going to prison." Do you believe that quote is correct?
100%.
Do you think he's cooperating?
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. He was turned by Andrew Weissman in 1996 in the first place, who happens to be the guy who turned Sammy the Bull. He prosecuted Enron, and now he is the right-hand man to Robert Mueller. Once again, he was the general counsel at the FBI when Mueller was the director, and now he's part of the special counsel operation. So I would say Felix Sater pretty much knows that the music is stopping.
Okay, we're here with Grant Stern. This is some of the best reporting I've heard in a long, long time. TheSternFacts.com. You can find him there. What's your Twitter?
At Grant Stern.
At Grant Stern. GrantStern.com. He's doing some work for Verified Politics coming up. You had a parting with the Huffington Post, right?
Yes, I did.
And because why? This is what I'm talking about. Like this makes so much sense. This is 100%. It all fits. This is why all these names are involved. Tillerson, all Palopoulos, all these guys. Why isn't this? Everyone. Once you read this, it all makes sense.
Well, I believe that the Huffington Post has some financial ties that they're not disclosing to the nation of Qatar, and we can talk about that after the break, I guess.
We will. Thank you very much. We'll be back with more Grant Stern after this.
Sure.
And now a word from our sponsors. Archival Revival, the Christian Film Archive, is currently paying for vintage Christian films. They are dedicated to preserving and restoring classic Christian films and media. So if you have an original prints, negatives, or other film elements of classic Christian films, or you have audio recording masters for classic Christian record albums, they want to buy them from you. So email archival.revival@gmail.com, and they're going to make you an offer. Archival Revival wants to preserve these classic Christian films so that they continue saving people for years. These films have brought people to salvation. They want to continue that. Their staff has decades of experience in handling and preserving of film elements, and they utilize the very best climate-controlled film storage facilities around the world. Contact them today at archival.revival@gmail.com. If there's someone you know has these prints, negatives, recording masters, or other materials from vintage Christian films, you can check out their blog at archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Now, just so you understand, Archival Revival wants to pay you for these films. So you can look in your church attic, in the church basement. If you have a friend who runs a Christian youth ministry or these youth vacation Bible study camps, they have these old films in those big metal containers, 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter. Archival Revival wants to buy them from you. So this is a sponsor that actually wants to give you money. And all you have to do is contact them, tell them what you have. If you're in the UK or Ireland or Africa, these films are all over the world, and they're gathering dust, and they're going to deteriorate if they don't get into the hands of Archival Revival. So that's archival.revival@gmail.com, or the blog spot is archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by pscoco.com. Phoebe Sod is an independent curator with the Cocoa Exchange. The Cocoa Exchange is formerly known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries, and they make the finest silky smooth chocolate because the products start with the best cocoa beans, which are tested for quality and flavor by expert technicians. The Cocoa Exchange offers not just premium chocolates, but anything from sauces and spices to brownie and cake mixes, and even coffee and martini mixes. If you wish to treat yourself or someone you love to a sweet and tasty gift, then the Cocoa Exchange is the brand for you. So you go to pscoco.com, you click on the Shop Now button. You can see all their beautiful chocolates. You can order it right now tonight. It could be in your mailbox in a couple of days. Or if you want to get into the chocolate business, you want to be a chocolatier just like Phoebe Sod, you can click the Contact Us button, and you can learn how to get your own website, go into the cocoa chocolate business, and sell chocolate and make a little bit of money there. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. But you also do all the kind of different services for you. An online dating service investigation. It's called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites. And we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, even gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites. If you think your ex-husband or something is addicted to prescription medication or involved in a extreme online pornography addiction, we can produce a report for you that you can use in court. Adoption investigations. If you want to locate your birth parents or your birth child you gave away for adoption, we can do adoption investigations for you. Asset searches for you. Locate bank accounts, hidden assets, hidden properties, hidden income, all different kinds of services in the asset search investigation. Email tracing. If you need to locate or identify somebody from just an email address, we can do an email trace investigation for you, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone